And welcome back to Tech Nange. Finally, I thought I'd come straight back with a little comparison video because might as well on AirPods Max, and you can barely see it from here, but the AirPods Pro Gen 1s. Okay, so let's get disclaimers out of the way. Firstly, I'm not audiophile, so don't expect that level of detail on the review side of the audio. I will just give it as more of a casual review on that point. Secondly, so you know how long I've owned these two for, I've owned the AirPods Pro Gen 1 since April 2021, and then the AirPods Max since about June 2022. And of course, for the AirPods Pro, these are the Gen 1s as I said. The Gen 2s recently came out not too long ago, and it kind of makes no sense to review this against that when I could have got the Gen 2s, but these are now going to be cheaper. It's going to be an easier option for people to buy, and now the newer versions out, you always go for the older one. Plus, I just don't have the Gen 2s, so it makes it quite difficult for me to do that. But either way, let's kick on with this either way. Alright, let's properly kick off with sound first, and we'll start with the pros, and I'll say they sound okay. I'm not going to say they sound extremely good, and I'm not going to say they sound bad. The okay is just a middle okay. Still give out a nice enough sound that you can be happy with. I wouldn't say these are like cheap and the main thing is noise cancellation or anything like that. They sound good enough for any casual listening, and when you're traveling, for example, the volume's loud enough that you can just listen to this, and this is without noise cancellation, I'm meaning, so you can just zone into your music more or less without that, and if you put noise cancellation on, it will help mute the other sounds around you. I'm not going to say silence, even though that's kind of its job. Obviously nothing's perfect. It does a good job at muting most sounds around you. We'll get onto more of that later on, obviously. The Maxes are about 10 steps ahead in audio quality in any area. It's much louder, of course, if you need it to be, and that's obviously perfect if that's for you. The sound just feels expanded. I can pick out, even me who isn't an audiophile, I can pick out so much more detail in songs I listen to, even if it's on Spotify, which is compressed and stuff. Even then, I still feel that sort of sense. When I first put these on, it reminded me how headphones really still are king, and I don't know why they wouldn't ever be for sound quality, everything like that. And obviously the Maxes are good. I'm not just saying the Maxes are the only headphones that do that, and there's other options. Remember, this is only for this and the Pros, but yeah, this is leagues above it. And yeah, this is the only reason why the Pros are just okay to me. If I hadn't ever got these before, these might be higher in my list, but they're not now because of these. They're just okay, while these are wild. Now for noise cancellation, which is actually the main reason I ever picked any of these up. I originally had the first AirPods, but then we went to these over time. And our first one, I actually start with the opposite feature that comes with. Noise cancellation obviously mutes everything. Transparency mode, which these guys come with, does the complete opposite and pumps in all the audio outside into your ears and makes it so it sounds like you haven't even got them on. And they do varyingly good jobs at this. The Pros did it as well for sure. Obviously there's the weight of them. You can't cancel out the weight of them in your ears. But aside from that obvious fact, they definitely like to hear enough of a sound outside that you'd be like, okay, I can hear more or less all conversations clearly. Obviously if your music's turned down as well. I can go into a shop, order food or whatever I'm doing, or if someone annoyingly decides I'm going to try and talk to you despite the fact you've got earphones on, that does happen annoyingly. Antisocial me. Yes, I can still conversate with them fine. I can pop that on, talk to them, whatever, and generally you can forget they're in your ears a little bit. The Maxes are practically cheat codes of this. They have so many more microphones on the outside to facilitate noise cancellation to a higher level, of course. They also help with transparency mode in that case. And generally, the first time I put them on, I thought they sounded louder and better than my own ears initially. I was like, why do they sound this clear and good? And it could just be down to the fact I may just have bad ears, I don't know. Or they actually get closer to normal audio levels that my ears are obviously used to compared to the Pros, which I definitely would say, obviously there's more physical things in your ears blocking it rather than cushioning your ears over the top. That might make transparency mode a little bit more muted on the Pros compared to this, so that might be the only explanation for why. It's not all upsides though in this area. The Pros, yes, have a little bit of weight and feel in your ears because it's physically plugging your ears, I guess, but it's not the same as a headphone on top of your head and clamping around the sides, etc. I'd say that's a harder feeling for your brain to tune out if you was on transparency mode, or just in general to try and forget that they're on your head or in your ears, whichever one you're obviously using. So it depends which one you can get used to more. For me, I can happily listen to these for a while, but I would find it harder to tune out to these than the Pros being on my head. That's noise cancellation though, which I forgot I started this entire point with. The Pros will block/dampen a good amount of sound whilst using these. For example, if you're listening to road noise, well, you're not listening to road noise, but you're listening to your own music whilst walking alongside the pavement or something in town, in a street, in a city, they'd be able to block out enough of the noise. Not all of it, but enough of the noise that you can focus mainly on your music, etc., and not just constantly hear the road bashing out, but it won't be completely silent. For a little bit of an analogy so you can kind of get the gist of it, I'd imagine playing a game at normal volumes, whatever you play at, and having Spotify or whatever music service you listen to in the background at about 10 or 20% volume. That sort of level, maybe closer to 10. So you can definitely still hear it's there if you wanted to listen to that, but the main focus is the main source of audio you listen to. So game audio in that example would be your phone call, your music, then like 10% would be road noise, outside areas. So you can still hear it's there, but it's not anywhere near as loud as it was before. Now the Maxes, I have to use my favourite words here, are outrageously good. Plain blockingly good. The main reason I really bought these is because I was planning to go on a plane journey, and it perfectly blocks out that noise entirely, more or less. You can't really hear the plane at all, which is perfect. Most noises, you'll find a hard time if you're walking out on the street, road noise, etc., someone talking to you from a reasonable distance away. You will find it hard to focus and try and find their voice and listen to it. It's obviously still going to be there. They're not perfect, but 99% of the sound, maybe an exaggeration, isn't audible when you switch it to noise cancellation, and you can fully focus on whatever you want. Leaving the noise cancellation with no music playing, you'll still have a hard time picking out their voices, engine noise, road noise from any sort of public transport. Obviously, I don't know if this is the right way I'd say it, but varying frequencies for sound, so engine noises that's like constantly rising and dropping might be a little bit more noticeable. Someone talking, for example, is going to be hard to block out if it's right next to you, or if there's music, someone else's source right next to you with speakers. It won't be completely gone, but it'll be way better than these, but both of them would easily struggle in that area, so it's a normal thing. Alright, comfort time, and it depends how you look at this, in my opinion, for this section. We'll start with the pros first. Assuming the fit of the pros at all fit in your ears, which obviously can be a determining factor if you ever get these, which you'll only ever know if you get them yourself. These fit fine for my ears, but these will be fine for semi-long periods of time wearing them before they'd start to ache. For me, about 2 hours or so of use consistently, and then they might start to ache my ears a bit. The hard plastic is a little bit unavoidable to eventually just cause a little bit of aching around your ears. It happens. It's not an outright painful sensation, it is just a little bit achy and annoying, so depending on how you're feeling, I guess, you can probably last the entire battery life for about 4 to 5 hours before they die. You can probably last that entirely without needing to take them out, but after a couple hours you may start to think, and my ears need a break, etc. But they're okay. They're not horrible at all. They won't break your ears after about 10 minutes. The Maxes also are pretty much fine for short bursts of use as well as the Pros are. The ear cushions are very nice and comfy, and they don't really ache you after, again, 10 minutes and stuff. They're completely fine for that. And the weight of them, which was a thing I was thinking about if I was going to use them, would that start to annoy the top of my head or something? Weird way of saying it, but wouldn't that annoy me after using it for a little while? And for short burst, at least, it's completely fine. The weight has never been a problem for me at all, so good job on that. Longer burst usage with these Maxes obviously would be encouraged with the 20-hour battery life that it has. You can pretty much stretch them for massive days out, traveling, plane journeys, etc., stuff like that. They're probably easy with these. Obviously, life, you can easily just get over 5 hours, but you could probably actually let them sit on your ears for that amount of time. They still do fatigue my ears a bit. They are over-ear headphones, so they just go obviously around your ears, and it does eventually fatigue it a little bit. After a while of use, the weight eventually catches up with me and I feel it, but it's not massive at all. I could happily leave these on for quite a while, pretty much a whole film or two, and so 3 or 4 or 5 hours or something like that. I'd be fine to leave them on a plane. When I was on a plane, they didn't really bother me. I kind of just wanted to take them off for a break so I could let my whole head and ear breathe a little bit. So if that's a problem for you, if they get hot, maybe, but for comfort, I'd say they're pretty much okay and fine for a longer term use. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the video. Let's get on to the battery life, and we'll start with the Pros. They are obviously not going to have as long battery life as the Maxes. It's about 4 to 5 hours in my own personal use. I think it's officially 4.5 hours in noise cancellation, etc., on 5 hours with none of them on, which you'll never really have. So it's 4.5 hours pretty much. 4 to 5 hours for me. They'll last fine, and again, I've not had any problems with that. It hasn't died out so much that it only lasts for like 2 hours, for example. And that's after how long I've used since 2021 in April, so that's pretty good. Of course, the case is super useful, over 24 hours of charge time, including the charge it starts with, and the case charge it can keep topping up. Pretty much means it's entirely fine for a day of travel, as long as you have the case with you, which you would never not have, so perfectly good. Perfectly fine in that sense. The Max's battery, if you've come from the Pros and you're starting with the Max's, are very differently managed, but if you've come from any normal headphones, as normal. The batteries are obviously just a lot bigger, as they're a lot bigger footprint themselves. There's no case that charges them per se, so if you got used to that, again, little change. But they last for about 20 hours of use. In fact, I generally think I haven't actually ran these down to no battery yet. I've ran the Pros down to no battery before, but the Maxes, I think the longest journey I had was on a plane journey when I was traveling to the US and back. Both times, either one way or the other, I failed to get rid of the entire battery, and it felt like it was a whole day of travel, but these still managed to keep up the entire way. So unless you plan to go away for a few days, in which case just bring your iPhone charger and charge these, I guess, when you're not charging your phone if you can. These will be perfectly fine for an entire day's worth of use, and for example, if you'd only use it for a couple hours a day, you could probably get away with just not charging it for a couple of days until you realize, oh, it's at about 20%, my phone's told me while I'm listening, I'll plug it in, and that could do you for the week. So depending on your usage, but either way, it's fine. As we briefly mentioned cases, let's get on to those specifically, and I would like to purely dedicate this section pretty much to this. The AirPods Max case indeed. And if you want my opinion on the Pros case quickly, I have no complaint. It's fine, it's small, it fits into every pocket I've had, it's not bulky, it doesn't annoy me too much, weight is fine, no complaints whatsoever. This flimsy thing for me cannot run, it really can't. It upsets me, and if this was just an excuse for Apple to say, okay, we've supplied it with a case, so you have one, and obviously there's better options that you can get later on, which you'd always get, sure. But you have to use these. Alright, so little explanations. If you leave the Pros or the Maxes, take them off your ears and put them on the table all aside, without putting them in a case or one of these, then they do technically stay on. They don't turn themselves off automatically. I feel like the Pros might, but I'm not going to say they do in case they don't. So they stay on until you put them away in the case. The Pros is easy enough. You put it in, shut it, it's stopped, it's charging, it's not off, but it is off I guess, but it's going either way now, charging it back up to normal. But you just have to let them sit out, wasting their battery at the same rate as if they were on your ears, which I don't know if the Pros are the same, but that's definitely weird to me that is a feature. It's not a feature, but that's a fact that happens. Now, okay, I know the integration's pretty much high key, and you probably need it to be semi-on most of the time between the Pros and the Maxes when you connect it to an iPhone. It's really good at that. I haven't even mentioned that once, but the integration between that and an iPhone obviously is perfect. Now, for my Maxes, I'd at least want them, if I put them in the case, to completely and entirely turn off and not have to worry about their charge whatsoever. Job's good and it's fine, but they don't. They go into an ultra low power mode. I think that's what they call it at Apple. And yes, it is ultra low power. It doesn't use anything. Like, I've never woken up after a night of sleep and checked if I haven't charged it and the battery's gone down by 10-15%. I've never seen that. It's never been noticeable for me yet, so I guess this complaint is a little redundant. I guess technically it's doing its job. Give me the option to turn it off, surely. That might be an only complaint. I don't know if anyone's got their own use circumstances where they've generally noticed after leaving it for a week or two, like I said, you could do without charging. If you could generally see a drop in battery from the start of the week to the end, that's noticeable, like 5 or 10%. Yes, it's not much, but I don't know, maybe it was banking on it staying at 70%. You come back the next week and you know, okay, I don't even have to bother doing anything. That's enough for my next journey. Could be a bit annoying. Speaking of which, I'm going to put it back in the case or else they will die. I'm kidding, they're not that bad at all. Alright, so let me just go over some little things that I didn't get to mention or didn't really have enough thoughts on to have like an entire section like I did earlier on, of course. Controls-wise, for these Pros, it's obviously got the force click button. I think I had a name for it, but I forgot what it was, where you'd force your finger into the little dent and you'd hear a click in your ears that would let you know you've actually press something or something, but you don't get a physical click back to, which I would have liked, but it's a little weird. You get used to it. It's not bad at all. It's not horrible. The Max's controls, I am quite a fan of them. Again, there's no off, turn off switch or anything like that, but I guess I'm over that one now, maybe. The crown for volume and changing tracks, I love the fact that I can click a button because I think that's rare at a lot of things now. I just like the fact I have a physical confirmation that I've done something, regardless of if the software gives me an audio cue for it. Although, when you're actually scrolling through audio, I would have liked like a physical little click between when scrolling through, but luckily the phone gives you that audio cue. I'd rather that. And for cleaning these guys, you're probably seeing in the B-roll now, or if I'm not showing you, then it's on the screen either way. They're not white anymore for these ones. These are the white ones. They obviously have the silver back and then the white top, and the ear cushions were white pretty much as it started off, or very light grey. They're not anymore, and that's after about 3 or 4 months of use for the Maxes, so beware. I was thinking maybe I'll clean them so they look good and show you pictures of it before, but I thought I'll be honest and just show what it looks like after 3 to 4 months of use. And they're not cleanish. At this point, I would definitely be wanting to clean them. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. But they still work fine, they still feel fine, but that's a little issue if you want to look at it. They don't stay the colour that they are forever. Same with the case on the Maxes. The case is white. It's mainly a design decision I should have just not picked the white ones for, but they are also no longer as white as they could have been. It's a thing. Maybe the other ones it's a little bit of a difference, but you will notice some decolor, you know, some colour that's gone a little bit off with the cushions for sure, with the sweat, etc. The Pros, I don't think I've actually had to properly clean. The case definitely isn't as white as it used to be, but I've dropped it a few times, etc. That does happen. Same sort of thing. And you had no choice with the colour of these, and even with the Gen 2s, you still don't. Not too fussed about that, although I like the white theme either way. But yeah, they're not as white as they used to be. The tips are fine because that's easy to clean. It's the rubber. Obviously, you'll get some earwax in those. From that side of it, it's not too difficult to clean. I haven't had it completely clogged up with anything like that. I won't go into details, it's disgusting, of course. The case itself, I'll try and get a shot of it inside the hinge part. Can always collect some dust, and where the magnets sit, it's annoying a little bit. It's very hard to clean sometimes. If you let it go out of hand, it can get out of hand and look awful, but as I've seen some friends who've had the same thing. But if you manage to just brush it, wipe it every now and then, it should be okay. They're not too difficult to clean. They will stay the colour you intended to do when you bought them, more or less. Now for the summary. Now obviously this isn't a review where it's like these two are competitors. They're completely different tiers of products, and one is expectedly better than the other one in more or less all the areas. And I'm not looking outside alternatives. Like for example, if you want quickly alternatives, I know the Sony XM4s or whatever they're called, XM5s I think they have now, they're probably a better choice for headphones in terms of they are a lot cheaper than the Maxes. I think they probably sound worse, but they'd save your bank a lot of money, so I don't know. But I'm not looking at outside alternatives. It's purely just these two, so factor that in with what I'm going to say from now. The Pros Gen 1s at least, which will be now cheaper than the Pro Gen 2s, they're the normal 250 price. I think for me in the UK, the Pro Gen 1s are about 180 brand new, which is not too bad. That is the obvious choice for me for anything you need to have in terms of Apple earphones with some noise cancellation on, if you want just a little extra level on that. I haven't actually seen the new AirPods, the normal versions, if they've got anything like that, so factoring it out of my decision. Only if you want the best of what Apple's got with the superior noise cancellation and all that jazz, the sound, which is incredible on the Maxes, and you don't mind headphones in general, because that could sway you. You might want all of these things, but you simply don't like headphones on your ear, and then therefore this is useless, you can't have these, you'll stick with earphones instead. So that might make a decision, but I'd only get the Maxes if one, your hole in your bank is not big enough and you'd like to burn a bigger hole for it, or two, you just want that quality and you really should want it. If you're going on plane journeys and stuff though, I generally would recommend these over those highly. Like I'd actually tell you to pick those if you can find them at a reasonable price. I didn't buy those full price, it was cheaper when I found them. If you can find them cheaper, perfect. If not, the Pros are pretty much a perfect option for you at any time. I think they're fine, they're versatile, they do the job. That's all you need to know, I think. Alright, that'll be it for me. That is me back to doing what I think I like doing best, which is waffling at tech, which I love doing, to be honest. I don't know why so much. Appreciate everyone who's watching, appreciate everyone who's come back to see, oh, he's doing these videos again. If you're just brand new in here, welcome in. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like on a video, subscribe if you're brand new and you want to see some more cool content like this. I would like to do some more reviews in the future. Next one I want, which you can't see, but there is a HomePod on one of my desks here. I've had that for a while and I feel like I want to do a review on those, so that might be coming up next. A few other things I want to get through, but in a couple weeks you'll see another video of these. Anyways, that's with me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you.